So why am I doing a case study on Mike Posner? Simply because I'm a big Mike Posner fan and find his career interesting and think there's a lot to learn from it. What inspired this case study is a simple quote I heard him say in an interview and later a song. Everything I do is on brand because I am the brand. As a brand strategist, this is something important to think about and consider when helping artists craft their brand. How do you create a brand flexible enough to grow with an artist as they change, explore new sounds, gain new interest, and are shaped by new experiences? Mike Posner's music has very much changed over the years, and the way he presents himself has very much changed over the years. His brand has changed as well, but it doesn't feel inauthentic or out of nowhere. Let's explore how he built his career and brand, how it's changed, the through line between his early brand and his current one, and what artists can take away from it all. Mike Posner exploded onto the music scene in 2009 and 2010 with his hit song Cooler Than Me off his mixtape A Matter of Time. He had a distinctive voice and a style that merged hip-hop and pop music.
And what was interesting to me was, as I was such a big hip-hop fan, and I had never heard a rapper, I'd never heard a singer sing the way I really wanted to hear a singer sing as a hip-hop fan. So an example is like my first popular song is the song Cooler Than Me.
Yeah.
And it has the complex rhymes in it, multi-syllabic rhymes, which I never heard singers use. So I'll show you what I mean. I said, you got designer shades just to hide your face. So not only do shades and face rhyme, but designer and hide your rhyme also. And that to me was just freaking cool. Like I never heard a singer do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, when you sing it, you don't immediately think hip hop, but when you deconstruct it, you can see it.
yeah. But like a hip hop fan would hear that.
Right.
You know?
So you're like you're bending the genre. I mean, it's really bending the genre from the beginning is what cracks it open for you.
It was a weird sort of like, it took 12 years. So at this point I'm 20. I made music all this time. It wasn't until I was 20 that I stumbled on this thing that was influenced by others, but was unmistakably mine. And I knew right away. Everyone's reaction was different. People were singing the song all over Duke campus. And
Right.
He came up through the college scene, which makes sense as he was a college student at the time. Taking advantage of what colleges have to offer is something that every artist can learn from. Colleges have a built-in network to share your music. It has young people with free time to actually listen to your music. It has parties for artists to perform at, radio stations, and infrastructure. Every young artist should be hustling to connect with the college community in their city.
Right. So you make these demos, right? And they're getting played at the parties.
they
around-
played at the parties,
Yeah.
people, and I didn't go to the parties because I was recording in my dorm. And the only time, it's loud in dorms. The only time you can really record is when everyone else goes out. 11 p.m. to 2:15 a.m. So that was
your vocals window.
That's when my vocals went down. And then my buddies would come back and they'd be like, man, they played Cooler Than Me at the party and everyone knew it.
Wow.
Which that never happened to me. Then my mom calls me. She goes, I like this song Cooler Than Me. Really? I love my mom to death. She's an honest woman. She never told me she liked any of my stuff before. Always supported me, bought me instruments, paid for lessons. She never said, I like this personally. She said she liked Cooler Than Me. Then Big Sean called me. He goes, Cooler Than Me is like a hit song, man. I go, what are you talking about, man? I'm just...
Yeah, if both your mom and Big Sean like it, like
That's
the
how-
crossover potential. Yeah.
Exactly, man. That's what I was thinking. And so then it just sort of started from there, man.
Yeah, and what's unique and cool and kind of the moment of that time is the fact that you end up releasing this song on iTunes U, right? Because there was no Spotify. You couldn't, as a consumer, just upload your music onto the internet to distribute it, right? But you kind of found this loophole.
Correct. And this was at a time when music was being pirated at a very high rate. And the music industry was really in trouble. And I knew better than anyone. I had the Duke internet. We were stealing everything, you know? And so...
Was this like full Napster era or a little bit after?
It was a few years after. We were using BitTorrents, the kind of thing. And
LimeWire.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
And so typically, if you made what they call mixtapes, which was like a free album, a lot of times rappers, before they make their album, they make a mixtape, okay? Which would include some original stuff and would also include them rapping over other people's beats. Now, I made a mixtape, and my mixtape was hosted by Don Cannon, who did all the biggest mixtapes. So it came. I had this very legitimate cosign from Don Cannon, and typically you'd put this thing out on a website called datpiff.com, and there was like a Z-share link. You'd click the Z-share link.
I'm already lost.
Dude, Z-share, yeah, it's like, it was this really confusing thing. There were ads all over it, trying to trick you to click other, and then like you had to navigate your way to a place where you'd actually right click and hit like save target as, and it would download. And I knew I could get my stuff in those places on that website and stuff, but I also remember my friends telling me these white girls at Duke know the words to this song. So I'm thinking I gotta get in a place where they can get it too, because I know they're not on Z-Share, they're not on DatPiff. So I have it on Z-Share, I have it on DatPiff. But in addition, I found this loophole with iTunes U, which was set up for professors to post their lectures. You know, if you're a professor at Duke, you can do a lecture on a topic, and anyone from all over the country can get it. And the cool thing about iTunes U at that time was it was free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could download lectures from all of these colleges.
Correct.
And, yeah, I think, does it still exist?
I think so. It was sort of transformed in some ways. And so the loophole was, I found the guy who ran iTunes U for Duke. And I called him up, and we still text every once in a while. And I find out he's from Southfield, Michigan.
Oh man, it's like divinely
he goes,
inspired.
He goes, I'll put your album on there. He goes, I've done that before. And it's true. I wasn't the first guy to do it. So he put my album on there, and now my stuff is on iTunes, but it's free. Now that's important because we weren't buying Kanye's albums. We weren't buying Lupe's albums. We weren't buying Jay-Z. We were stealing all those.
Yeah.
So I knew no one's going to pay for my album because they don't know who the heck I am. So it's important. It's free, but it's also in this safe spot, iTunes. And so I started a Facebook group. I got all my buddies to invite all their friends, all my high school friends at different colleges. And before I knew it, I was being asked to come to every college, man. Come play this fraternity, this thing. And I'd get there and everyone knew my stuff.
Yeah.
Mike also focused on expanding his fan base through collaboration. While his most frequent and notable collaborator was his best friend Big Sean, early on he also collaborated with artists like Wale, XV, Freddie Gibbs, Boyz II Men, Black Bear, and more. He had mixtapes hosted by DJs and was consistently touching new audiences. Beyond working college markets and collaboration, Mike was a content marketing machine. In fact, he still is. Now, however, like most artists, it's centered around Instagram. Early in his career, Mike was making web series, behind-the-scenes videos of tours, videos of shows, videos of studio sessions, videos of freestyles, vlogs, posting videos from fans, sending out newsletters, and he was creating a podcast, all to go along with his music. This may seem totally normal today, but in the early 2000s, it wasn't unusual for an artist to flood the streets with music. It was much rarer for them to let you catch a glimpse into their world. Fans and humans in general tend to be voyeuristic in nature, which is why reality TV and shows like Cribs are so appealing. Mike was scratching that same itch for his fans. The content production not only kept fans engaged, it made the relationship with fans deeper as they got to know Mike and grew attached to his journey. That was extremely important because between 2011 and 2016, Mike Posner released very little music. He had been shelved by his label, and his career was up in the air, and he was dealing with potentially being a one-hit wonder.
I do what I do.
Well, you have this huge hit, and it puts you on the map, but then you have kind of a fallow period where you're trying to make, more hits, thinking it's going to be easy because your first one was huge. So you've had the ups and the downs. You know what it's like to be in both of those places, and it reminds me of that thing that Jim Carrey has said, which is something along the lines of, like, I wish everyone could be famous so they could realize, like, it's not the solution to what ails us or what we're truly looking for.
That's a great line. Yeah, that's a great line. He's right.
Yeah,
he's right.
Plus the irony, the added irony of the song that makes you famous, Cooler Than Me, is just about you not being cool.
Correct.
But then it makes you cool.
It happened again. Yeah, and it happened again. You know, so on my second big hit that I sang was about the fall from fame, which I thought was pretty interesting. You know,
I Took a Pill on Ibiza.
Yes, I Took a Pill on Ibiza is about what happens. Like, you're a one-hit wonder, and then what happens? What's that story is not so well documented. This is a line in there. It says, I'm just a singer who already blew a shot. I get along with old timers because my name's a reminder of a pop song people forgot. And the song I'm talking about is Cooler Than Me. Mm-hmm. But then there's something about this song that ironically gives me another shot.
Well, setting aside, the melody and the lyricism and the kind of, beautiful technical aspects of what makes that a great song, great pop song, it's the honesty and the vulnerability that I think allows people to connect with your humanity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that's what we were talking about at the outset. I mean, that's a theme that runs through your best work.
Yeah. And to me, that's not a departure from hip hop. Authenticity in hip hop matters a lot. When you listen, if you think about your favorite rappers, they tend to be people that you believe what they say. Like, they're not making up a story, whether it be Jay-Z. Jay-Z says he never lies in songs, and that's probably true. And it's cool because there's an authenticity to it. Their stories don't resemble my story. But I've always tried to maintain that feeling that what I'm saying is true.
During the gap in releasing music, he nurtured his relationship with his fans by releasing covers, one-off songs, and most importantly, he did ninja shows. Ninja shows are just free pop-up shows for fans in different cities. Fans were told on social media the location of the show, and whoever showed up got to meet Mike and hear him sing. After the release of his first album, reviews were describing his music as frat house R&B. It makes sense. His music was influenced by that college environment, his singles were tailored to that demographic, and it seemed like with the success of Cooler Than Me, he was expected to play into that a bit. But after the release of his first album, Mike was no longer a college student, but his label probably wanted him to carry that image forward. But what happens when an artist sees themselves differently from their fan base, or their art grows past who their believed fan base is? A college fan base isn't static. In fact, no fan base is static. But the perceptions and expectations on art and artists can be static.
What about when you started getting more successful? Did you feel like it was easier to make deep, meaningful relationships, or is it harder once you create that kind of fame for yourself in an industry?
It can be harder, and this actually, I think I gave sort of a long meandering rant to your last question, and I didn't really answer it. But I think this answer sort of answers both, which is when you have a hit song or any sort of work you do that becomes very popular, people view you through the lens of that work. So in my case, I Took a Pill on Ibiza, which is a sad song. It's right in the chorus. All I know is sad songs. So people assume that they come in contact with that before they come in contact with me. And it's not necessarily, like you say, you seem like a happy guy. Usually I am a happy guy. I would say more than half the time I feel good. And I wrote that song expressing some sadness that I was feeling. It was a good place for me to put my sadness, good place to express.
Productive place.
Yeah, or a good place to put your anger and sadness in the song, express that. So I think that makes it hard because people have an idea of you before you before they meet you. And that gets in the way of your art too. Sometimes you start overthinking, oh, everyone loves me for being the sad guy, so maybe I should keep doing that. And you gotta be real careful with that. You gotta be real careful with that, because then you're basically doing an imitation of your former self, you know?
You're not evolving.
You're not evolving. If NQ, who you've had on the show, who's a friend of both of ours, he always says art is alchemy. I don't know if he said it on your show, but he says it all the time. He said art is alchemy. So you're changing, you're transforming your suffering into something beautiful. And hopefully that adds something to other people's lives when they come in contact with that beauty. But if you're dramatizing or victimizing yourself, you're not alchemizing your suffering, you're just making more of it. And so you always want to be cognizant of that. You know, am I creating more beauty or more suffering in the world?
Yeah.
So how can an artist build a brand that allows them to change without losing their fan base? One way is gradual growth and change. Ariana Grande is a great example of that. Her first album came at the heels of being a Nickelodeon star, and her fan base was largely preteens and teens. With her first album, Yours Truly, she made an album that was accessible to that audience, but also mature enough to engage with older demographics. She also used features to introduce herself to new audiences. Then each album got progressively more mature. This progression gave her existing fan base the opportunity to grow with her. Mike didn't have that same luxury, having been shelved by the label. His return to the music scene was much more abrupt, with the release of At Night Alone being extremely different than his previous work. He understood such an abrupt change was going to mean having to lose some fans, but the ones that stuck around were the ones that be fans forever.
Speaking of hard work, there's a great quote by Jay-Z, "You think I work this hard to stay the same?" You've talked a lot about, like, in your change, like when I think about even just the persona of you and like the Boom Chicka Wow Wow song to now, the change is incredible.
Yeah.
You quoted Gandhi as saying, "I have no allegiance to consistency, only to truth."
The truth, yeah. There's a story Ram Dass used to tell. I don't know how true it is, but Ram Dass told a story about Gandhi, that this is where the quote comes from, that he was leading a march. And there was like thousands of people following him. And there were some particular details, like it was a holiday or something, maybe something with the police or something, and he decided this march is actually going to do more harm than good. And everyone's going to him like, you can't cancel the march now. Like, look. And he said, my allegiance is not to consistency, it's to truth. And so he called off the march, And I think that's important, it's important. And it's tough. So, like, you got to reassess.
So now you have this additional layer, which is success. So for you to change could actually be really expensive, like in a really real way. How do you not get trapped by that? For instance, obviously to write another song that's in the same vein as I Took a Pill in Ibiza, it's like, I'm sure everybody wants you to do that. But then how do you stay true to where you are creatively? Like even Mansions, right? Like the way that you can line up your interviews, and even if you blocked the hair and I couldn't see that you had green hair, which you did for pretty much every interview you give on Mansions, but even if I couldn't see that, I could tell literally from the first sentence, this is a Mansions interview. Like the way you talked, like the presence that you had, everything was just different.
Yeah.
And so you clearly have not been afraid to make pretty radical changes in the way that you present yourself. Like honestly today, when I was doing the research, I'm like, I actually don't know who I'm gonna get. I don't know if I'm gonna get Podcast Mike, if I'm gonna get Mansions Mike, if I'm gonna get sort of mainstream pop Mike, like you're very capable of going in like these really, and when you're in that lane, you're crazy consistent. But then you'll be in the next interview and you'll be radically different. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's so fascinating because as an artist, what I've read about musicians especially is their big torment is my fans, my managers, everybody, they want me to, the hit was here, and to just keep being that. And the irony is, so this is full confession. So Spotify just recommends music to me all the time, right? So as I began the research, there were like 3 songs that I have of you in my playlist. I didn't know were you. I didn't know the Mansion stuff was you. I should have, because your voice is so fucking unique. But it was so different than the other stuff that it didn't click. And so when I started looking, I was like, Jesus, even musically, you're like capable of not only writing for people all across the map, but even when you do it yourself, it's wildly different. And so while I'm a huge believer in change, I love change, but as an artist, man, fuck. Like if I rolled up one day and just did the interview style totally different, people would be like, the fuck? Like, and I would be tense to do it because it's like, I want a guest to know, like there's consistency and you don't have to worry and you know what you're gonna get. So it's amazing, I'm super inspired by it. And I'm just wondered like how much of that is like conscious, like I'm feeling this and want to express it, and how much is like just, you don't even think about it. It's when I feel green, I dye my hair green.
I think in the past, I felt that everyone wants me to stay the same, so I would overcompensate. You see what I'm saying? Instead of like just doing what I want to do, I might do the opposite of what everyone wants me to do, just to prove I am still autonomous.
Tactically, how have you dealt with people that like, so you've even said like, my parents, for instance, at times didn't like when I was changing. So what do you do when it's somebody like that, especially that you're so close to?
But I have to do what I think is true to myself. And the reality is if you don't do what you want to do because of what someone else says or what you think someone else is going to say, which a lot of times isn't what they're going to say, you're going to resent that person. So it's going to mess the relationship up anyways. You might as well do what you think is true to yourself and real. And what I found is by doing that, by expressing myself, what I've gotten over the years are these amazing relationships where people accept that I do that. And now I have the space to do that. And my fans now, did I lose some along the way? Oh yeah, I'm sure, you know. But a lot of the ones that I have now, no, they know for sure my next album is going to be different than my last one. Like, that's what they're a fan of now. I had this moment this summer. I was doing a kayaking trip with my friends, and at the time I had this huge beard. And one of my friends was like, "You got the beard, man." He was like, "Is that on brand?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm the brand. Like, whatever I do, that's the brand." So I think that's how I deal with it. Just do like what I feel is true to me. And in time, like the people who really care to love me. And love is just accepting someone how they are right now and how they aren't right now. That's what love is. So the people that accept me how I am, that love me, they accept that I change.
Mike Posner essentially did a complete reset to his brand and career. However, artists, if they can build their brand around their mission, vision, and values rather than a particular image or just one song, can have more flexibility in their brand. Mike now has his mission on his website, which is to enjoy life and help others enjoy theirs. Mike wasn't starting completely from scratch. There were fans who had engaged with all that content he had put out before, who were fans not only of the hit songs, but had a deep relationship with him as well, and that was extremely important. Those are the fans that can see the through line between Mike's early work and who he was as a person then and who he is now, and there's still a thread of consistency. That thread is in the reflective nature of his songs and the overall human experience and feelings he communicates. For example, On A Matter of Time, in the song Losing My Mind, Mike talks about the experience of being lost and having a sense of loneliness. On Speed of Sound, off One Foot Out the Door, he talks about the same lost feelings of self-doubt and a feeling of not being at the center of his own life. This continues on his debut album, 31 Minutes to Take Off, where in Delta 1406 he sings about being jaded and worries that shooting stars leave no mark, meaning his career will fizzle out and he won't be remembered. On The Layover, in a song A Perfect Mess, he sings about doing impressions of himself so people can't say success has changed him, when honestly, that's not true. He sings about the fear of vulnerability. In At Night Alone, we all know the hit song I Took a Pill in Ibiza and how reflective that is. But he continues that trend with songs like Be As You Are that talk about having to become comfortable with yourself. And in his latest studio album, A Real Good Kid, he explores what life is like after the death of his father. Noticing a theme here, the self-exploration that is the basis of Mike's current music had seeds in his early work. The sonic landscape for it has just become drastically different. For a guy that had a 5-year gap in his career before he returned with a new sound and a new hit, I Took a Pill in Ibiza, and even with hits like Cooler Than Me, both of which are very different songs, both connect to people's humanity.
There's sort of a gap in my career from 2010, my first album, to my second album, 2016. But I made 2 albums in that time. It was just that because my career had slowed up so much, that my career was really considered over by record label, by just sort of everyone in the industry.
Like music industry.
Yeah, I was considered a one-hit wonder. A good songwriter, hire him to come in if you want to hit single or something like that. But him singing that's sort of done. And so I was making these albums, but they weren't being released. And I hope to one day sort of figure out the legalities and get those out there. But,
Well, it feels like, it seems as if in that period after that hit, when you're trying to, replicate that, or just, in this presumption that you're going to be able to, create more and more hits, you're fighting this growing sense that you are a one-hit wonder. And it's only when you make total peace with that and then do it in a public way that everything then shifts again.
Correct. It's like you can't have what's next until you're okay with what's here now.
Yeah.
I agree.
And during that period of time, is this when the kind of spiritual growth is starting to take root? Like, what are you doing?
Correct. So I started meditating, and this book, Asking It Is Given, it changed my life. It's about sort of a wacky thing that people have a lot of opinions about, but I believe in the law of attraction, which is you sort of get what you think about. So if I'm thinking about, my success is coming, then my success is coming. If I'm thinking about it's not here yet, I'm going to get more of it's not here yet. So there's a subtle shift in the thinking.
Acceptance and freeing yourself from expectations.
Yeah, it's just sort of like re-brainwashing myself. It really was like a brainwashing where I had to train my mind to think of my career and myself differently than everyone else did. Because everyone else thought my thing was done. And each day I would journal. I would sometimes write the same sentence over and over and over again. And I just got myself to, I'd take walks where I'm repeating the same thing, almost like a mantra in my head, like I will accomplish this. And eventually I started to really believe that. And maybe it's happenstance. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I don't have a double-blind study, but I know that I got my own internal dialogue to a point where, just like the first time where I knew that was going to happen because Sean did it, I knew I was coming back.
Yeah.
I knew everything was going to work out.
Did you know Ibiza was going to be the one?
No, because I thought it wouldn't be the one because it has a drug reference in the title and the first line. So I'm thinking they're probably not gonna play that on the radio.
The radio's going to play this.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I knew it was a good song when I wrote it.
Yeah.
I liked it right away.
So this song,
His most recent album has begun to bridge the gap between some of his early sonic roots of electronic pop and hip hop and his new, more indie pop and folk pop sound.
words of wisdom for somebody who's out there who aspires to give voice to their creative muse. Perhaps somebody who's a little frustrated or stymied, doesn't know how to take that first step.
Yeah.
What is some inspiration or some tools that you've used that have been helpful in bringing truth to your expression?
Being an artist is a really simple job. And this goes for any medium, writer, painter, musician. Your job is to create the art that you want to be in the world, the art that you want to exist.
And how do you define art and artist?
Anyone doing something creative, I think. I don't know. But yeah, you're asking about someone who's looking for their muse. And what gets in the way of the muse is when we start worrying about what other people will think. Even one extra person is too many. If I think about what Rich, will he like this song? It will mess my process up. All I can do is create the stuff that I want to be created, the stuff I want to exist. It's a beautiful job. You get to tailor make things for you, beautiful things that are made to your exact preferences, and no one else can do it except you. And it's just very simple. That coming back to that has helped me every album, and I think I heard it. I didn't make that up. I heard it from Maria Popova from Brain Pickings.
Right, brain pickings, yeah.
Just make what you want to be made. That's it. So we could zoom out. Just do what you want to be done in your life. That's it. It's your life. It's your creation. Go get it. No one else can do it for you. If you don't do that thing, it just won't happen. If you don't write that song won't get written. No one else can do it for you.
It sounds so simple.
It is simple. It's easy to lose track of that, but I think it is pretty simple to come back to that. I've told big name artists that they're in the throes of an album and they're confused and they have too many songs.
It's like, what do you like? What are you trying to
I just
say?
tell them that and they go, it's like they took a dip in the cold lake,
right.
man. Like, wow. And it's for myself too.
Yeah.
His brand has further evolved into something more spiritual, not based on the music, but it is built around his mission, vision, and values. It's built to inspire and is built around not calculating what others want or others' expectations, but his own. So when he decided to do things like walk across America, it just made sense to those who followed his journey. While Mike Posner hasn't necessarily had an ideal career that many artists would envision for themselves, I think it's even more important to study his career for those exact reasons. I hope you learned a lot, and like Mike Posner says, if you want to achieve something, make sure you give yourself a no matter what clause.
When I started this thing, I told the public I'm going to walk across America, but that's not what I said to myself. What I said to myself was I'm going to walk across America no matter what. And I think, as you well know, anything worthwhile in life is going to be hard and things are going to go wrong on the journey towards it. So I had already visualized myself succeeding, yes, but I actually also visualized myself going through really hard times. I had visualized myself breaking my leg. What are you going to do? And I knew, I used to tell my friends, hey, if I break my leg, I'll go back to that spot after I'm healed and I'll finish my walk. I'm walking no matter what. And so when things did go wrong, I got bit by a snake, I'm in the hospital. I didn't have to negotiate with myself. I didn't have to rethink, hey, maybe it's not meant to be, which is really code for I'm giving up. I just knew I was walking no matter what. And so once I healed, I was going to go back to that spot where I got bit, and I was going to keep going.
You did? So you went back to that, to spot X?
Exact spot. It was terrible. I was very scared. I didn't want to go back there, but it was important for me to, for my walk to have integrity, to have no breaks in my walk.
So you went back to that spot.
Yeah.
And then you finished.
That's right.
What was it like for you when you reached Venice, California, and you put your feet in the Pacific Ocean?
Oh man, that's one of the best moments of my life. And it was so special because there were not all the people, but many of the people I really loved that loved me, they were there. And I just felt like I had tapped into a part of myself I didn't really know was there, or I had a intuition there was there, but I found out it was really there. And I didn't feel done. It felt good, but I also just felt more excited that, hey man, if you could do this, what else could you do? And now when I look at life's buffet, it's a lot more choices there, So that's I think what felt so good about it.
And what did you learn from it?
Shoot, I learned a lot of things. I think we talked about some of them already. One, any contract you set with yourself, got to have a no matter what clause in it.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. That is hugely beneficial to this channel. I hope to create more videos like this in the future. Leave suggestions of what artists you would like to see covered, and I will try to get to those in the future. Thank you. Also, if you want more content, check out noisecomplaintsgroup.com or follow us on Instagram @noisecomplaintsgroup.